tackling the world's greatest challenges in 15 minutes. Here we go. Thank you for joining us for this session. I'm Sholeh, and this is
Hope Azeda.
Azeda.
Good morning, people. You're so quiet. Hi.
How you all
doing?
doing?
In my country, we really shout. Like, hi. Good.
Why don't we do a room test? Just say, hey, everybody. Great. We're still awake in the lead up to lunch. Just to give a really quick introduction to Hope, because she really has an incredible track record that she brings to this conversation. But you're hiding. So Hope is one of Rwanda's really most respected and renowned theatre makers, and she's the founder and artistic director of Masharika Performing Arts and Media Company, and also the founder and curator of the Ubumuntu Arts Festival. And both of these initiatives really are part of a concerted effort to explore the role of arts in social transformation, in reconciliation, and kind of creative empowerment. And I think to kick us off, we're going to play a video, which is the trailer to this year's festival, which is coming up in July.
What if the walls we live with were built on illusions? What if the walls you built for others today became your own downfall tomorrow? What if you were the voice of reason that could burst barricades of confusion? What if you were the glorious light that could crumble the walls of darkness? What if your own children became victims of the burning walls of hate, the burning walls of prejudice you built? What if you were brave? What if you were trapped in the walls of fear built by self? What if these broken parts, this history, the wounded walls became your strength? What if beyond these walls sleeps despair, and you lay your life before death to cross the waters? What if beyond these walls live voices of survival, voices of hope? What if in you sleeps the hero that would conquer your shattered dreams? And what if these walls deprived you of all that is good, goodness that is warm on rainy days? Leadership, virtuous, did these walls black out the light that you could give your neighbor? What happened to turning the other cheek? This farce is a fallacy used to turn you against your brothers, against your sisters. The truth you hear is not the truth. Is it a partial truth? An alternative truth? We've only heard one side of the story, a West Side story, but what's your story? What's our story? Our story is our story. Our story is our truth. What if these walls built are a force of a false world that encases us as it destroys our humanity?
So Hope, I wonder if you can give us a bit of context to this incredible introduction to the festival, your motivations for starting it, and a bit about the space that it takes place in, because I think it really brings to life the vision that sits behind the festival.
Yes, it's really, every time I see things around this festival, it's always hard to speak after anything that I see. I don't know what that is, but it hits that place in my heart that creates like a deep hole, and then you have to come from this deep hole and speak. But yeah, everything around this festival also has to do a lot with my background. My name is Hope, and the reason my father gave me hope is because he was hopeless. I was born a refugee, and a lot of kids born as refugees in Uganda were given names like Hope, peace, joy, faith, fortunate. Everything they never had, they gave it to their kids. But again, I was born and raised in a dictatorial regime at that time of Idi Amin Dada, and all I saw was war. Then I wanted to go back to Rwanda. After the war, when I went back to Rwanda, then I found the backdrop of a genocide. Then I was just talking to my friend here, and I asked her, I told her that I complained to my father, how long are we going to talk about these stories? How long are we going to share painful memories? Then he said to me that your history is your shadow. It will always walk with you, and you can never run away from it. All you can do is live with it. And that is why I live with these kind of stories. The Ubumuntu Arts Festival really for me was something that I think had to be, you know, those kind of things that happen in your lives and you're like, how did all this come to exist, to be in this world? And this year it will be 5 years old, and we always say that the festival is like a child born and starts running before they can crawl, but which is a sign that it was a much needed space for the kind of conversation the world needs. So this festival takes place at a genocide memorial where 250,000 people are buried. And when I was taking this decision, people thought I was crazy. They were like, why do you take a festival to this place? I'm like, but I've lived in this country for now 16 years since I returned to Rwanda, and I've been using art as a tool for social transformation because art has the power to take us and to tap it to a special place in our souls, to unlock certain conversations we never usually have. So it takes place at a genocide memorial, and it takes place after 100 days of our mourning in Rwanda, because genocide happened in April, and we mourn for 100 days. At the end of 100 days, the festival takes place. So yeah, in this festival, we share stories that are quite, that evoke conversations the world needs. And for me, this festival is it's a space that I love to be. It's a space that creates pressure on me, as in like, what is our next conversation? So this year's conversation is when walls come down, dash truth. We are talking walls, barriers, and borders. We are talking about invisible walls and visible walls. I think that's everything around it. Yeah.
It's fascinating, and one of the things we were just talking about, which would be great to unpack here too, is the way in which a story which is so particular to Rwanda can be this kind of fertile ground for a conversation that we all need to have, that idea of what are the conversations globally as individuals and as a global society we need to have together. Can you say a bit more about how that happens, how the story that's so particular to your experience becomes a bridge for people from very different countries and backgrounds to share in our common humanity?
Yeah, the reason why this story of Rwanda is actually not like our own story, it's a global story, because it's basically written on a script that is global. Genocide is it's an international ideology. Genocide is a global story. Genocide is a global evil. If Rwanda had had these conversations we're having right now, the genocide would not have happened. So we think when a story like that happens to us, it's our responsibility as artists to create awareness around the world that these are the signs that lead to genocide. That if nothing happens, we don't want you to go where we have been. Don't go there. These are the signs. It's prejudice, it's all this stuff that builds up to a genocide. So basically, why it becomes not our story, but our story, like in the film, is because it concerns issues that make our humanity uncomfortable. And the slogan of the festival that keeps reminding us about this is we are human together. And we also go by the ideology of humanity, which is I am because you are because I am. So that's it. If only we could stick to that, these kind of things will never happen. So for me, I think it is my story, but it's actually our story. And it reminds me when I first met Debs at Rich Mix Theatre a long time ago, about 10 years ago. We were on tour in UK with our performance about the genocide called Africa's Hope. So when we were coming to UK with my company, I was feeling very guilty. I was like, why are we taking sad stories to people who are so happy? To people without walls, to people without these things. Why? We're in this flight, which is not even a short flight. I was meditating upon this. But after our 3 months tour, it really was a great testimony for us to say that we discovered that sharing our story opened up conversations that were leading to almost our story. And we found that UK students or universities or the public where we shared our story were going through the same things, only that they had not reached the edge of a genocide. And we felt that what we did was not bad at all, to share our story. So my story is your story. When your neighbor's house is on fire, yours can catch fire too.
Yeah, I don't know how everybody else in the room feels, but there's something that resonates really deeply about that idea of what we can learn from experiences elsewhere. And there's something really powerful in what you're saying also about the way in which we open up to that kind of depth of reflection. And I know part of today is also about institutional change and how we create spaces for difficult conversations together, difficult processes of change together. What have you seen in your work that unlocks the possibility for us to kind of show up with a little more vulnerability, with a little more openness to hear truths that might not immediately be our own, but touch something deeply within us to create a more transformational conversation?
What I've seen in most cases is that people are comfortable living half of what they're supposed to be. It's like 50% of hope with half truth and 50% of hope hiding the other side. But what I've also seen in our work is that art really creates a safe space. People just need safe spaces to tap on these places. So when people don't trust the benefit of this conversation, they will never open up. But people got wounds. People got invisible walls. And they're just looking for that master key, which they hold, actually, to open that space. To be who they are, to live that moment, to live that truthful moment. I don't know that I'm answering your question, but for me it's about the things that people fear to talk about because of what might happen to them. And in my case, it is trauma. It's trauma. We have had a space where people just get traumatized. And this has been triggered by a little something because we live with fragments of memory of what we've gone through in our past. And sometimes we run away from these fragments because we don't want to encounter those moments again. But those fragments, when you encounter them and live them and hold them, they trigger something, and it's like bursting a boil or bursting a volcano that is on pressure to a burst. And when it bursts, there is a sign of relief and healing that we all need as to move on. But the courage to go there is it's not easy. It takes courage, it takes self-acceptance, it takes you signing up for this.
From what you were saying, it sounds like the creative process is one that can unlock that, can pull down those walls. And what's been the experience of people who have come to perform at the festival? What's been the experience of audiences? Have you seen different kinds of that creative empowerment happening as a result of engaging in some way with the art that offers a space, a safe space for those conversations?
Yeah, I have seen this a lot. And also our festival is when we were creating this festival, when I was thinking about this festival, when you think of a festival in Africa, the first thing you think of is dance and rhythms and spears and skins. But this festival is just the opposite of all that. It's a festival about public introspection. And what I love most about it is just seeing people. The festival starts like at 6:30, but someone comes in at 4 p.m. I'm like, well, you're putting us on pressure. You're not supposed to be here at this time. Go to a workshop or walk to a panel, do something. But they just want to sit there quietly, engage with the space, look at the set, and they're just there quiet. And sometimes performances take place Some people clap, others don't clap. And some performances just evoke deep silence and people just walk away in silence. But I think for me, that's what it should be. And that's what I've seen people react there. But in terms of participants coming from different other countries, there are participants that come and you see that they have this whole thing about an art festival, where art is for art, where art is about this, but, and they put us so much pressure on us. You know, like my show is like my show, I need this. I'm like, you know, they have like flying helicopters. I'm like, are you talking about a show? Are you talking about the story that has brought you here? If it is the story that you're talking about, if it is this story about a girl who was mass raped in India, let's talk about this girl, not about you carrying this story. Because we believe that these stories we carry are gifts given to us. And they need care and clarity and dignity. And it's not about the people carrying these stories, it's about these stories we are carrying. And we need to give them respect. We need to, carry them with care. They are gifts given to us, and we need to do justice to these stories, more than do justice to us, the carriers. Yeah.
Which feels like a subtle shift from the kind of art for art's sake narrative to art for our sake.
Yes, yeah. This is not about me, myself, and I kind of spirit. It's about us. It's about us as a shared humanity. It's about us trying to cook a meal together and share this meal, and each one takes something from this meal and take something with them back home and share it with other people, or plant seeds of peace and love. Yeah.
And tell me more about the values that sit under the way that you work as a festival, because it feels like they're very important to creating an environment in which, if, say, we're coming from a culture like we have in the UK, which is typically quite individually centered, to a space which is really about our collective experience and coexistence. What are some of the values that you live as a leader, as a festival curator, to make that possible, make that shift possible?
First of all, the space where this festival takes place has its own values that we have to go by. And when I was starting this festival, many people thought I was very crazy because it takes place at Genocide Memorial, and the memorial itself has its values. For the memorial is a space for everyone, regardless of who you are, regardless whether you are a big VIP politician, a billionaire, or the most downtrodden, or it's for everybody. The gates are open for everyone. So that means our festival is going to be the same. It's going to be for the poor, for the rich, for the people living with disabilities, for the people living, it's for, as long as you have a visa that is called human being, this is where you have to be. So that's one big value, like this is a space for all of us. And the other thing with this kind of space is that it's not that kind of festival where you go smoke a cigarette and drink alcohol. They say no alcohol, no cigarettes. So people are like, Hope, how do you do a festival without a cigarette and alcohol? I'm like, what? What if the art we create became the cigarette and alcohol we get addicted to? So that was also another big thing. So the values of the memorial also were like, if you're below 13 years old, you cannot come here because what is in the memorial may be too heavy for that child. So we thought the work we are going to create is just for people who are 13 years and above. But the first time we ran the festival, we saw children running to the festival, and we are like, wow, if our slogan says we are human together, then we need content for these kids. What content do you do for kids about humanity? We're like, maybe let's just talk about colors and beautiful flowers. So the first day of the festival is specifically dedicated to children and young people's work, for or by, so that we complete the circle, we are human together. So this whole thing of the festival also, when you go in this space, silence speaks louder than words. So it calls for you to be a listener. So as a curator and director of this festival, I've learned, I've improved my listening skills because I have to listen to a lot of things and try to put them together. So, but also at the same time, not come out and say, I'm the curator. I'm like, no, I'm just a human being trying to do things. So there's also the level of being humility, the humility aspect of everything as a human being. And also to separate yourself from this individualistic spirit, which I think is a big enemy to values of humanity.
Wow. I'm sure we could all sit here for hours unpacking this, but if we can even just take away those principles of listening, of remembering our humanity, and of embracing the humility of that, then I think we will all have had a good day. So Hope, thank you so much, and thank you all so much.